There we go. We are being recorded.
Okay.
Normal stuff. Uh, while Jean is doing her presentation, please put any questions you have in chat. Oh, and I'm going to put the link for the handout. The handout is yay, so you can download the handout. But put your questions in chat during the presentation. After Jean has finished her presentation, I will take questions from chat first. If we still have more questions after that, I will be happy to take live ones. Let's see. And so our speaker today is Jean Wilcox Hibben, PhD, who is a really funny and very interesting person outside of genealogy and inside of genealogy. And today she's going to be talking about the dangers of watching and taking information from online trees without looking at that information critically. Oh, and please do mute yourself during the presentation so we don't have extraneous noises popping in while Gina's talking because she gets distracted very easily.
Join the club.
So everybody except Jean, I'm watching you. Please go ahead and mute yourself now, and I'm going to let Jean take it away. Thank you, Jean.
Oh, you're welcome, Janice. Janice and I go way back in knowing each other and have some fascinating discussions. Sometimes they don't even have to do with the genealogy. Isn't that amazing? Okay, now I'm going to share my screen, and if I do this right, I have three screens, so I sometimes get confused, but if I did not get confused at this particular moment, it should have my title page, title slide, Beware the Enchanted Forest.
That's certainly
And
what I see.
All right, that's great. Now let's move through and find out all about those online trees. We're going to go straight ahead right into the forest after we make sure it's clear. Please, no recording of any kind, and I thank you for following that, except for Janice, who's recording it so that I get to have another copy of this. Keep trying to record it and never have, and partly because it changes a lot. Please mute your microphone if not already done. Okay, so you're going to take a few moments. You're going to double check. Please mute your microphone, because if something goes off on the microphone, if I hear something over there, I'll call you out. You don't want that. Let me tell you how this can be an issue, because there was a conference that I attended that did not mute the mics for people, and I expected that they would have. And I've been talking to my dog about one of the speakers, and finally somebody made comment that I needed to mute the mic, and I did, and then I changed my identity as well. I didn't want to be embarrassed any further. Okay. And as already mentioned, please hold the questions to the end. We'll look at Janice will run them from the chat. And even if you were to address me during the presentation, I will not respond unless I do. Okay, we're headed into the forest.
Bye-bye.
I have got some fantastic slides, some pictures that other folks have taken and given me permission to use. So please, especially, do not make copies of these unless you've asked me first. Well, before we head into the forest, we better know a few things. Do you remember the forests of fairy tales? That PhD that was mentioned, I have is in folklore. And I just love all this sort of stuff where there's the witch in the forest, and then there's the witch right now. Okay, and then sometimes there are mean animals like that one, or something could be flying by and get in your hair. Well, there's some scary stuff in those forests. Remember Peter and the Wolf? Oh, yes, he was told, don't leave the yard. There are wolves in the forest. Hansel and Gretel were left in the forest, and in order to find their way back home, they used breadcrumbs. I suggest that if you have found yourself abandoned in the woods and you don't expect to return, Maybe you'd like to, however, don't get abandoned. Use right click on your mouse or your trackball or whatever. Use right click and on that hyperlink of whatever you're going to go look at, whatever website is coming up next. When you right click, you're given a menu that lets you open a new web page or open a new tab. And that way you get a chance to keep where you were, to find your way back, but you still get to go forward. And it took me a long time to learn that little technique, and before I learned it, it was pretty bad. I could never find my way out of some of those forests. And you remember Little Red Riding Hood? She was told to go straight to grandma's. Don't talk to strangers. And I kind of am telling you that same thing. You're going to grandma's, great-grandma's, great-great-grandma's. You know what I mean. And then in The Wizard of Oz, that sign said, I turn back if I were you. You notice it's not a screenshot of that because I don't have permission to use that, but those are just the words on a pretend slide, on a pretend sign. So I know that there are times where I started to go into family trees online and think, maybe I should turn back if I could figure out how to do it. Well, sometimes, though, there are good things to be found once we get through the trees. So I say to you, welcome. The kingdom and its people are yours. Oh, hold it. Little bit of a question here, and this is a rhetorical question. I also enjoy word origins. I just love word origins. When online became an adjective, it was set up this way, on-line. And then I found it in a lot of places as a noun. You know, are you online? Well, that could be how it's written. But today, it seems everywhere I look at the word online, it's one word. I have no idea what is absolutely correct, if there is an absolutely correct. And so therefore, I have attempted to put all of my references to online without the hyphen. So though I can't help you with that conundrum, here are some questions that I think I can help you with. What are online trees? Where are the trees found? Are all trees created equal? How can a tree be assessed for quality? Should we even look at the darn things? Should you put your tree online? Now, my goal is neither to convince you to put or not put your tree online. That's a personal decision for you, and it's going to differ. Reasonings and all that will differ from person to person. Nor is my goal to convince you to use or not use online trees in your genealogy research. What my goal is to help you make informed decisions about online trees. Because, my friends, let's face it, anyone can plant a tree. I have planted it. Of course, most of the trees that I plant outside are dead within, 2 weeks. Anyway, so what are they? Online trees are posted online by a person or a family. And sometimes there are a large number of contributors or people that can edit. They require internet access to view. That's the word online. You have to be able to get online in order to view them. They're not supposed to have any living people listed, with a possible exception of those who've given permission for that listing, and often the person whose tree it is has him or herself listed. Usually they cannot be altered by anyone but those authorized, with the exception of wikis. That doesn't mean it always works that way. They can be viewed by anyone if they're public trees, and they can have the data lifted and placed on other people's web pages or their genealogy software if the tree is public. We don't have time to go over every website that hosts trees. It seems like every month there's another one that's popped up. Where are the trees found? They're found all over the woods, of course, but we're going to examine just a few. We're going to take a look at Ancestry, MyHeritage, which is also connected to Genie. and My Heritage Company. So we'll just briefly touch on Genie and briefly touch on WikiTree, which also connects in some ways. And of course, we're going to look at Family Search. So those are the primary websites that we're talking about here, but that's not all the websites that exist that will host family trees. And of course, there are also privately created trees, sometimes by using software like Legacy or Roots Magic, Family Tree Maker, those. Often they're accessed only with special permission. Right? And sometimes it's, yes, you can get on the tree because you're related, or you can see the tree because you're related, and it will cost you, and there's a monetary value to this. By starting from scratch, this is often the way people do it. They start from scratch and then hand enter all the data or horrors lifted from somebody else's work. Anyway, we see that there's various ways of getting the stuff online. Now, I have a disclaimer I've got to give you. I put this together originally in 2015. Now, there have been a multitude of changes, and I have tried to stay on top of everything. I'm asking you to excuse my older screenshots simply because I checked. The information is the same. Even the look of the screenshot may be pretty much the same thing. I really don't mean to confuse anybody, so I hope that won't happen. But I do ask that you refrain from telling me more information is on any example trees. I may already know that. I'm using these things as examples. I do want you to let me know if I have missed any major changes over the last 5 years. Now, I have looked at that, at this whole thing, not yesterday, but the day before. And I went through everything. And I sure hope I got it right. Are all trees created equal? This is a really quick discussion. No, but you already know that, I would think. When can online trees be used as sources? Well, this is a good question. Now, in order to use the tree, you should be fairly secure in the information being accurate. So when you've carefully assessed them, when citations and other obvious indications, such as attached documents, are included, and not just that, but you need to look at those things as well. We'll talk about that in a moment. And when you can contact the tree's owner. If it's gone up there anonymously, I would anonymously not look at it. Avoid trees that use only other trees as sources. I think that that's kind of obvious why that could be a problem. Or that have no credible sources. If they provide inconsistent or contradictory or obviously incorrect information, such as a birth occurring after a person's death, unless you've also got information on how to construct the time machine. We got to be careful about accepting something that is that blatantly obvious. Have non-verifiable citations or don't suggest references to be checked. Now, I've had experiences where there was a URL given for a document that is going to support a particular bit of information, and then when I've checked on it, it's a broken link. Maybe because information had been taken down, or it had been consolidated with something, or any one of a number of things. So those who put trees up ought to be looking at making sure whatever links are that they claim are still operable. You can still get to them. And of course, we want to avoid trees that are posted by someone you can't contact. Oh, how can a tree be assessed for quality? You're going to compare it to information you already know. If the information that you read there is 100% or even 50% incorrect based on what you know, then you have to analyze yours perhaps again, or recognize that somebody goofed. Or maybe you just have the wrong John Johnson. I have a John Johnson. It's easy to get the wrong one. Okay, how else do we assess it? We carefully investigate the sources provided. Sometimes people use incorrect sources, and sometimes that is innocently done. One tree I was looking at, I was so excited because it had a passenger list attached. I went to look at it. I went through that passenger list, not just the page that I was taken to, but the entire passenger list. the person or persons that were said to have arrived on that ship either were using aliases or that's the wrong source. Make certain that the tree owner is someone who can be contacted. Okay, that's the third time I've said the same thing. That is one of those things that I consider absolutely important. Let's look at a few of those trees and analyze them based on what I just said. Now, if you want to put a tree up on Ancestry, they've got 3 ways to do it. You can create a new tree right there on Ancestry. Or if you already have one that's up on Family Search, you can import it from Family Search. Or if you have a family tree that you have put together using one of those software programs, you can upload a GEDCOM. That's a generic way of using a pedigree on one of the genealogy softwares. And you can do it that way. So that's if you decide you want to put one up. There are 2 different categories of family trees on Ancestry. One is the public member trees. Public member trees can be confusing because a lot of times there's more than one person that's putting information up. I'm looking for John Conrad Weiser. He was my 7th great-grandfather, and I found a lot of trees for this man. But here are the first 2 I found. The Buttonham family history. And I'm excited about this because it has 12 attached records and 12 sources. Well, probably the 12 sources correlate with those 12 attached records. But that's a lot of additional information that may be available on those sources and those when I look at the records. So I'm very interested in seeing what's up there. Now, the next one that came up in my list here is the Brandon Wine family tree. One source. Okay, normally I look at that and say, oh, I'm not going to take time for that. But there's a photo. I don't know what it's a photo of. It says that there are photos. So I'm thinking maybe maybe it could be a picture of John Conrad Weiser, or maybe a picture of a birth record or a newspaper article. Now, it's not likely there's going to be a photo because he died in the 1700s, and there was not that unless he went on a time machine. Oh, anyway, let's move ahead. There are also the private member trees, and here you can see what's there. You know, see there's second one there, the Horton Reed. It says that there are 4 attached records, 4 sources, and photos. Maybe it's a photo of the homestead of John Conrad Weiser. Anyway, whatever it might be, I really would like to look at it, but I can't because it's a private member tree. And when I click on it, it says you have to contact the member for more information. And so I can do exactly that. They give me a little link, and I can click on that and then see if I can leave him a little note. Because when I click on that, it gives me a template for an email, and I can contact the person and say, I really would like to look at that. You know, I have this types of information, and maybe work out a swap of something. Like I have a picture, and you got a date, and could I take a look? Right? Well, there is another element of trees online that is supposed to be, adhered to. Living people should not be displayed in an online tree, especially one that's public. Now, when we get the idea there's a living person, but we can't see the person's name, they use a little icon there. I think it's supposed to be pink for the ladies and blue for the guys. I'm not quite sure about the trueness of the colors, but they say private next to them. And often it's assumed that those people are alive. Not necessarily so. It is possible that it's somebody who has said to the tree owner, the person posting this, don't you dare put my name up, or don't you dare put my grandmother's name up, because of whatever personal reasons there may be. Just because it says private does not mean that the person is still alive. It could be a request by maybe a descendant. Well, I'm going to take a look at this. This is it's called the Howard family tree. And you see there, it says that I am a contributor. I am. I have contributed a variety of things, and most of them have been ignored. But my end of this particular tree is minimal, and not something that the person that's put this up is that interested in. But this is part of the tree, and the way we know that it's part of the tree is there's this icon that shows this is how big the tree is, but what you see right in front of you, the enlarged part, is in that kind of white colored square. And so I say, okay, so who I'm interested in is the lady on the end. Okay? I'm interested in Leonora Adelia Stickel because she married my great-grandfather. She's not my great-grandmother, but she was my great-grandfather's second wife. But I want to learn more about her, and so I can click on Profile and then go into her profile. So everything here is in relationship to her, and we have 3 columns. The middle column is one of the first that I look at to see if the information that I need may be in one of those documents that is linked. Now, how do I know it's used? I find this really cool. I click on one element of the person's timeline, and it shows here are the different sources that relate to this particular element of the person's life, which I believe is simply her name. Oops, hang on, there we go. Now, again, I look at this stuff, and we have 6 sources for her birth. And then we also find there's only one source for her residence in 1870, but she was age 7. How many references do you think there might be? It's obviously a census record, but that's unless they somehow got her elementary school picture. I don't expect more than one source for the residence for her, at least for that year. Now, the far right column, I showed you there's 3 columns. The far right column shows us her family. So her parents were Edward Everett Stickel and Lydia Jane Larimore. Her husband was James Harmon Caskey, and their children were Bernice and Pearl. And down at the bottom we have this husband, who is Edward Everett Wilcox. Now, the first thing people say is, how likely is it that her father's name is Edward Everett and her husband's name is? Well, I can't speak much for the father, but I've found that his name, what information I have gathered, that's accurate. Now, Edward Everett Wilcox, I know 100% that's accurate because that's my great-grandfather. Well, I'm looking here at the date that Edward Everett Wilcox died in 1934. Now, I'm curious about the first husband there, James Harmon Caskey. He died in 1937. My first instinct when I heard about the fact that she had married my great-grandfather after being married to someone else was that, her first husband must have died. Well, no, he died after Ed Wilcox died. So what that tells me is there's probably a divorce or polygamy. I guess there could be an annulment, but with 2 children, that's not likely. So I'm going to take a look now at husband number 2, because primarily husband number 2 is my ancestor. And I got his profile. And so everything listed here is in relationship to Edward Everett Wilcox. His parents are Nathan Edward Wilcox and Irene Freeman, and his first wife was Amanda Williford, and they had 1 child, Alma May, and then his second wife was Leonora Stickel, whom we've also just looked at. Okay, well, I look at this and I say, we got some problems right off the bat. Ed and Amanda had more than 1 child. They had 4 children together, and that's not listed there. But maybe that information wasn't known. I need to take a look at a few things. I'm going to look at the 1900 census. Now, Amanda Williford, my great-grandmother, died in 1892, so I don't expect her to be on the 1900 census. However, I do expect Leonora Adelia Stickel is most likely on that one. So I'm going to check the census record, the document for anything the tree grower omitted. Now, I'm figuring the tree owner has looked at this. I know you can't read it. I haven't put it up there so you can. Oh, now I have. All right. Edward Wilcox and his wife is Leonora. Then there's Bernice and Pearl, and they are the stepdaughters to Edward. And then we have Roy Wilcox, who is the son of Edward. And then we have Nellie, daughter, Lee A., that's my grandfather's son, and Alma M., daughter. Now, it doesn't say, and these four were the children of the first wife. It just has them all listed there with the relationship to the head of the household. And the last child there listed is Lottie I. And that's the first child he had with Leonora, Leonora had with him. But I'm kind of curious. Only Alma from his first marriage is listed on the ancestry tree. She's the only one who never married, too. That's interesting. So here are a bunch of people that didn't make it on that synopsis of Edward's family. I'm going to contact the owner, I'm sure you can imagine. I'm going to do that. Kay Semro is the contributor. She and I have become friends over time, and we sort of tabled a lot of stuff on that line because it's not her direct line. Well, she puts down all kinds of information about herself. If you do one of these, you're the owner of a tree or a contributor of the tree, and it says to describe yourself, don't put so much information in there. People don't need all of that. They need maybe a couple of basic things, but they don't need to have that much information. You know, we've got an issue with identity theft. Don't give something that somebody else might actually be able to use in that. Well, I am going to contact her because that pops up, and that gives me a blank email form, and then I can set that up, and I just say, please reply to my private email, and I go into some greater detail. But I don't want this person contacting me through Ancestry because I am terrible at following up on those communications. So I asked, let's just take this off of Ancestry so we can talk to each other. It's not like I'm stealing somebody's, worker or employee or something. What other sources might be available for this family? I want to tell Kay about this. Do not expect that what is given is all that is available. There may be other stuff. It's also possible that not all of the stuff they have shown you is going to be helpful. So what things are missing? Marriage record for Edward's first marriage, record for his second marriage. Oops, there we go. A marriage record for Leonora's second husband. And when she married Ed, that marriage was for Leonora Welch, not Caskey, which was the name of her first husband, nor Stickel, which was her maiden name. So I don't know who this Welch person is and how long they were married, or I don't have any information about that. So I want to find that out. I would like to get an obituary for Edward's first wife and for Edward and Leonora. They died within like a week or two of each other. And now I'm going to check the cemetery and death records for anything more I can find. Well, let's take another look at that whole family. Edward Everett Wilcox is the man I am researching because he directly connects to this woman, Kay Semro. But I'm going to go back to Edward's father. So when I click on his profile, it says Nathan Edward Wilcox, born in Oswego, New York, and died in 1891 in Brownsville, Jefferson County, New York. Well, I look at that and say, I have no idea where that person got any of that information. Edward was the son of Nathan, but Nathan's middle initial is W. Not positive what the name is, but I suspect William, because that's named after his uncle. Just a thought. Now, Nathan Wilcox lived in Tennessee for the last years of his life. And that's validated all over the place because of newspaper articles and some court documents and all kinds of things. And this says that he died in Brownsville, Jefferson County, New York. Okay, first off, there is no such place. It's Brownville, no S. And what? He's living in Tennessee and he says, I'm about to die. I'm going to go back to Brownville in Jefferson County and die there. I don't really think that's what happened. In fact, I know it didn't happen. He died in Nashville. Well, okay, where did this information come from? And why is Edward listed as his middle name? Probably because Edward is the name of his son, but that guy was named after a grandfather, not his dad. So I look at this and think, there's a lot of problems. What if I were to examine some of these things and see if I could figure out more information? And here's a bunch of great things here. The deaths of the son, a birth of son, birth of daughter, another birth of son, as though he had only 3 children, he had 6. And then his death. And now information here, a lot of errors. Oh, this may be why. Because the source, the only source listed for anything on this man is Ancestry family trees. And just to clear my own name, I don't have a tree on Ancestry. All right, where are we going from there? Oh, this is his family. It says that Nathan Edward Wilcox had no father and no mother. That's very sad. But I will also add here, his mother is her maiden name was Euchre, and she was connected to a very well-known family in New York. So somebody obviously did not follow through on a lot of information that's available. Irene was Nathan's wife. Now, it has Irene listed a second time. I don't think they divorced and remarried or anything like that. Somebody just added the same person again. Oh, and again, look, there she is with her picture. I got that picture. There's Edward and K.E., that's Catherine Wilcox, and Clarence. And like I said, there were 6 children, actually, but the first 3 died in childhood. So people don't even know they exist. When I was told about the family, nobody in my family had any idea there were 3 more kids. So there's a lot of things that aren't there. How would I evaluate this? Well, there are no suggestions for Nathan's research to research him further. Probably that's because so much information is an error. If they put in the right information, I'll bet they could find things. But it makes for a pretty bare tree when it goes like that. Now, if I look at the whole of the Howard tree, there are a lot of good leads to follow. Even things that are incorrect can sometimes have just a kernel of information that is accurate and can lead to other things. There's resource hints from Ancestry, so I'd want to look at those, especially that 1900 census where they left off 4 children. And it doesn't have anything. It does have the access to the tree owner, which is one of my big deals. Got to have that. But the errors that one might not be aware of because he or she didn't know the family or follow the suggestions Ancestry gave, it could have been made so much better. What starts on Ancestry then often finds its way to other sites. And frequently the citations are omitted or credit is missing or changes have been made. And you might not even recognize your family tree when you see it someplace else. Well, I like to use my heritage also. Good folks there, and they correlate with Roots Magic, which happens to be the software I use. I'm not touting one over another. I'm just telling you that's what I do. Okay. So I look at my heritage and I find my family. Here's my dad is Leroy. He was also known as Roy Wilcox. And his birth and his death and marriage and all that information is accurate. I love it. I didn't put it up, somebody else did, but it looks pretty good. And what I really like is web hints. And there's a web hint from MyHeritage, and there's also 2 web hints from Family Search, which are the 1920 and 1930 censuses, and actually that was put up by me. Well, I checked a little more about Leroy Wilcox. I want to find out as much as I can that they have, because maybe I didn't know my dad the way I thought I did. By the way, I do. So Billy Dale Fry is the one that put this up. And all that information is, in general, fairly accurate. However, there are parts that have a problem. And we're going to start on the left, way at the bottom, where it says children. Robert Harrison, unnamed, and Jean Marie. Well, I'm Jean Marie. My brother, I talked to him last Tuesday, I think, and he was very much alive. The unnamed was a stillborn child. Okay, so why are Robert and Jean on here when they're not supposed to show living people? First question I had. I get a little bit nervous when I see that. So I'm wondering what else is wrong. Well, I'm going to contact Billy Dale Fry, and I do the same thing. I click on that, and I get information about her, and I get the information about how to contact her. And of course, I'm going to look at the whole profile, and I'm going to look at contacting her. And like I did before, I send out an email that says, this is who I am, and this is why I'm interested. And most of this particular template was filled in. I just changed some of the words, like my name is Jean, as opposed to put your name here, right? And please contact me using my email address. And indeed, we've had some interactions back and forth. But I've also been very concerned about the fact that my brother's name is out there for the world to see. And if he knew that, I think he'd disown me. There are also some errors. It says here that my grandfather, Lee Alfred Wilcox, married Pauline Elizabeth Wilcox, born Miller. Well, that's wrong. She was born Mueller, not Miller. Does that make a difference? Well, it can, alphabetically. And in her marriage, it does not show her name Elizabeth. That was a name that was added by the family, naming her after her grandmother. Well, I'm looking at that saying, okay, but those are forgivable. But I do want to hold the presses here, because I'm looking at the privacy issues on the website, and the man that runs the whole shebang, Daniel Horowitz, he's a friend of mine. And I wondered what was going on, and I contacted him, and he said that the progress is slow but steady. They're fixing this type of thing. So I offer 3 cheers for MyHeritage. But I'm also going to add to that this information is not on a public tree. It looked like it was, but it's not. So I guess I'm not as upset about it as I was. My brother might be, though. I'm just not sharing that with him. He doesn't understand the enjoyment of doing genealogy. I just don't get that. But that's maybe some of you have relatives like that too. Well, it also tells me that there are some other records that could be discovered. Leroy Wilcox in 1930 and in 1920, and then some family search, family trees. And I look at that and say, well, yeah, and there's a 1940, and there's a 1910, and a 1900. Now, there's all kinds of stuff with my dad on it, but he wasn't as easy to find on the other census records. And not that he was trying to hide, but no, he didn't always stay in the same place. MyHeritage, my pedigree chart, and I didn't put this up. I told them they could go ahead and put it and attach it to my file, but I believe my husband put this one up. Of course, he took all the information from me. So it still means that if anything is screwed up, well, it comes back to me anyway. But my grandfather was Lee Alfred Wilcox, and I don't expect you to remember a lot about my family, but let me tell you that's the son of Edward Wilcox and the father to my father, Roy Wilcox, Lee Roy Wilcox. You see, his first name is Lee after his dad, and his middle name is Roy after his uncle. So people call him Leroy. He couldn't stand that. So he went to L. Roy, and then people started calling him Elroy, and he couldn't stand that either. So the way we've always said it in our family is L. Period Roy. For many years in my young life, I thought Dad's middle name was Period. Oh well. I want to take a look at what's going on in this particular family tree and do some editing. A little pencil means edit option. And so I take a look at Lee Alfred's profile. This is my grandfather here, and I look down everything, and you know something? That's right. Well, like I said, I think my husband grabbed it from my tree and put it up there for me. Don't forget the citation location. Now, this isn't one of the areas where you got to dig around a little bit to find where to put the data about where you got the information, the source citation. So when I look on this informational square under 1886, it shows that Lee Alfred Wilcox was born May 20th. And I can go in there and I can edit, or I can get more information that might not be showing up here. So what I did was click on it, on the editing, and then it says the reason this information is correct. This is where the source citation goes. It's really not easy to see if you have some problems with reading teeny tiny things on the computer. But when I click it, I get a drop down that says, explain why you think this information is correct. And now I can put in there his birth record, his military records. I have all kinds of things. But I should also be putting it in such a format that people could find it. Just saying military records isn't enough. But this is not a presentation on how to cite sources. So we're going to move to the next one here and see where we got. My assessment of these connected trees from my heritage. Some hints for record searches, a way to communicate with the tree owner. You know I love that. Places to add stories, but living people are listed, but by design. The errors or confusion with names could be a problem. It wasn't huge here, but there's some others that were a little bit worse. Incomplete data and no specific source format. Just why do you believe it? This is considered a world tree. Right? So if you want to create a wider family connection, there's over 200 million of these family profiles on the genealogy's world family tree. And that's old. That was accurate as of 12:30 in the afternoon a couple of days ago, the 15th of May. I went back to double check the number, and it had gotten larger. And I just sat there and watched it as another one goes up, another one goes up, another one. Realized, oh, well, I'm never going to have it right on. But it gives us an idea that there's a lot of people there. Somebody has to be related to you, I'll betcha. Okay. Well, another quasi-connected tree is the genie tree. Now, the genie trees, it did say, join, it's free. Well, there is a free component. But if you want the premium package or whatever they call it here, then little money is what's necessary. And it isn't very expensive. That's why I said little money. I really meant it. Okay, so I'm going to tell you just a little bit about it. There are lots of positives. There's lots of space for stories and information. There's a timeline creator. There's links to more trees. However, there's no specific location for sources. It's not even as good as my heritage, I'm afraid. No links to document hints. And the contributor can be listed as private. And that's frustrating. I have used genie trees in a variety of ways, and I did use it for some work on one of the television shows I did research for. And that particular phrase right there, private, made it so that I couldn't use some of the information there because there's no way to find out if it was accurate or who the person was that put it up. So when we have that, we ended up with you hanging. And I don't use it that much, but it is this huge tree. It's the largest and most comprehensive collaborative family tree in the world. It is based on the collaborative research of millions of genealogists and a team of expert curators. So, and I'm not going to deny that at all. Very much like Jeannie, we have the wiki tree where genealogists collaborate. It feels like I was just there, but it's a little different. And I was trying to figure out the best way to work with it, and I checked on YouTube videos. And I've done this with some stuff for Family Search. I've gone on to YouTube videos and gotten step-by-step instructions on things. And I thought, I'll bet you they've got that for WikiTree. And sure enough, they sure do. And it is promoted or sponsored by WikiTree. So it's not something that somebody just guessed at putting up. And what about these wiki trees? They can be added to or deleted from by anyone. Now, it could be positive, but it could be negative. Mm-hmm. It also includes AI in that. So artificial intelligence is also used to make these connections. It can foster an interaction with a family member. It includes clear source citation, clear source information to clarify accuracy. Even though that information is, there's a spot for it, people don't necessarily fill it in. There's room for lots of stories. I've found some really cool stories about family. You might not even recognize your family when other branches are done grafting on the branches. Others, anyway, you can see that. Okay, and QA is permitted and encouraged. It's also encouraged, however, to be courteous. Even if the person that put things up, you're pretty sure no brain at all, still be courteous when asking questions or attempting to assist. Just more likely to keep things moving in the right direction if we are nice. Major differences between those two types of trees, Genie and the Wiki tree. Genie has a large variety of features. There's a premium option. It includes DNA inclusion. You can post your DNA results. It has MyHeritage integration. And it has really pretty easy merging with other trees. WikiTree focuses on creating a single world tree for free, merging trees with user-generated content, research tools. You can use a GEDCOM and upload the GEDCOM, but it's a little bit different from some of the others. When you do that, it requires the user to assess each profile instead of doing one massive auto entry. I think that that's a good thing, but I know that some people want to do things a little bit faster, and isn't it easier just to push click a link or click a button and have everything just loaded in for you? Either way, though, this is community collaboration. That's what they are focused on. If that's not what you want for your family tree, then don't post one there, because once you put it up there, it's there. Even if you change your mind and take it down, you know there are going to be people who have found it. Well, officially, we're going to call the world's tree our last one we look at, Family Search. Now, Family Search is a lot of problems, and they also have a lot of solutions. Ideally, the problems are countered by a solution, but not always. Well, if I use the drop-down menu under Family Tree, I'm going to click on Tree, and it automatically goes to my tree, the one that I have up on Family Search. And here's my family, and in fact, I'm in there somewhere. Probably I'm the other child. Anyway, there's my dad. All right, and it indicates that his son is Robert Harrison Wilcox, who is living. Now, if you go to look at my tree, you won't find Robert Harrison Wilcox on there. You won't find me on there, because that's just for me and for Robert and any of our children that we would choose. And since neither of us have children, that choice is really easy. Anyway, here we got, there's my dad. And take a look at my dad a little bit further with his father, Lee Alfred. We've already met him, and Edward Everett. I'm trying to stay on the same line, so at least I don't get you too confused. So we got some pictures on here, and oh, I get so excited when I look at some of these things. And then I look here at Amanda. Amanda Williford was my great-grandfather's first wife. She's my great-grandmother. And I look here and see like nothing. The dates, but there's very little. And the reason there is well, she didn't hang around all that long. She died when my grandfather was about 5. She died of face cancer. So I have here the 4 children that they had, and I'm curious about where information came from. But I'm going to move back and let's look at Edward Everett Wilcox, and I'm going to show you how Family Search does some of this stuff. So here we have him, and I click on him, and I get an abbreviated profile, so I can go down there and do some editing and all. So I look at here, we got the birth. We have 10 sources for the birth, and 6 for his death, and 4 for his burial. I think that's kind of exciting, because I've watched this grow over years. Now, I should be saying because I've grown this over years, but a lot of it's put up by my second cousin. And again, more information, but this doesn't have the sources listed. Why not? Well, probably because nobody wrote them in. Yes, I know I could do it. As soon as I'm done with this presentation today, I'm going to do just take a nap, actually, probably what I'm going to do. Okay. All right, I'm going to find out more about Edward Everett Wilcox. My grandfather knew him. That was his dad, and used to tell me some stories. Wife number 2, I have more information. 3 children with his second wife. And I've got a data that has been printed in newspapers as well as documents. So Texas, not as many resources because their records weren't public until after, I think it was 1920. So there's not as much, but I found marriage record for them because it was announced in the newspaper. Don't forget newspapers, right? And here are the 3 sisters from Edward's second marriage. Lottie, or Irene actually is what she went by, and then Leonora, and then Mary Louise. Mary Louise, that's one word. It doesn't look like it there because it really wasn't, but we always say Mary Louise all together. And I knew Mary Louise, and I knew Leonora Mildred is what she went by. All right. Now, sometimes you get unexpected help, and it just appears. Now, it's not supposed to put the data in. It's supposed to appear so you can tell there's some more information. And it says here, search these records because these records have proven to have people by this name. Not necessarily my ancestors, but it also has research help. Now, I find this one very interesting. Possible missing child. There's a gap of 3 or more years between the birth of one child and the next sibling. Well, I looked at that and thinking, from Edward? I don't think so. I have to go take a look. And when I did, I discovered that we can dismiss this because it's not talking about Edward's family. It's talking about Edward's father. It says that there is that one child was born in 1861, the next one in 1869. The Civil War that extended the separation between husband and wife. Nathan was working in Tennessee. His wife was in Iowa. They did not have any children during that time period. And therefore, there's a gap of all those years. So I've given them information. These dates are correct. However, it is because of the Civil War. So I click on that, dismiss it, and that no longer pops up as a a research hint or information needs help. Now, I can also go to the family tree drop-down menu and click on person and get some more information. Now, this is my question person. She's my great-grandmother, Amanda E. Williford, but I don't have hardly any information about her because she died when my grandfather was 5, his sister was 3. So really, there's nobody knew anything because there weren't records because before 1920. Well, here's what I want. I want more sources and I want more information, and I want everything. That's the genealogists. We're never happy. Okay, you show me that, but I want more. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on follow. That means whatever happens with this woman in this tree, if somebody adds something, subtracts something, posts a photo, whatever, I'm going to get an email. And it's going to say something along the lines of, you're following Amanda E. Williford, an obituary was added, or something along those lines. Maybe just another source has been added. So now when I look at my singular area for Amanda E. Williford, it says that I'm following her. I've got about 5 people I'm following. And that means that I'm waiting for the information. I've been following her for about 10 years, and I'm still the same place I was. Every now and then I go back to make sure it's still there. Yeah, it is, but it's a toughie. All right. So I can click on following under that family tree menu and find out a little bit more. It says I'm following one person. Actually, I'm following more than that now. And then what are the options? And it gives me tags. So I say, well, I want to follow for any changing of dates or names, first name, last name, whatever. These are the types of things I'm following the person's pedigree for. All right. And when I decide she's not mine anymore, or I no longer want to follow her, I can always click on unfollow and go back to square one, which I'm still at. Now, if I want to find somebody on the family tree for the human family, we can put in all kinds of ways of finding them. The 2 primary ones, obviously, are by name, right? But also by ID. ID means the family search identification number for the person. But I want you just to think about that for a moment. If I have merged another person, let's say there's another Amanda Williford, and I discover this is the same one, and I merge them, what's going to happen with the ID number that was assigned by family search? It's got to go one or the other. And I determine which it is, but now there's an ID number change. So I tend not to use find by ID because it often is a runaround trying to find the right Amanda Williford. Or in the one I'm following the most is Johnson. But I won't tell you how hard that is. You can imagine that one. So my branch on the family tree is what I'm looking at. People say, I have my tree on family search, and I say, you got a branch of your tree on there. Hopefully you have the whole tree on, but do you know anyone that actually has got their whole tree anywhere? All right. Anyway, here we are. I think there it is. I put in Amanda Williford. I hit search, and I discovered, sometimes I discover these things when I'm doing presentations, and here we have, and how many? Number 22. There's 245 people that match this. Okay, well, they can't all be the right ones, I'm sure. So I need to check all of them. This is the one that I'm looking for, but that material has been put up by me. I know what I put up there. And so I need to check all of the others that have been identified. Okay, maybe not 245, because probably the higher numbers are less likely to be connected. But I'm determined to find more out about this woman. And so my sign in for this line is what I use to show you. But because I'm a family search center consultant, my sign-in includes a couple of other things. So I decided I was going to take a look at the sign-in for maybe for anybody else. So I could check out my brother's sign-in, which he doesn't know he has, but I've tried to show him he doesn't care. All right. So my assessment of the family search tree. It's open to the public as a key. That's positive. That's new. By the way, open to the public also means to AI. Permits open dialogue with others working on same line with potential opportunities to email contributors. It provides hints for records at Family Search and other locations. Family Search adds information by the use of AI, as I just mentioned. Errors, when called to their attention, get fixed. Now, I have been following a major John Johnson error in that tree, and I've been following it for the last probably 2 years when I discovered it, and have tried to get it fixed and tried to get it fixed, and I did it with the way we're supposed to, source citation. I attached things like an immigration record and a will and all kinds of stuff. Finally, it got to the right person, and I don't have a second John Johnson family. I have just my original John Johnson family, and it makes me feel very good because I was afraid that I had to do this other person's work as well. Actually, that's okay. I don't mind. There's an option to monitor or follow a family name or tree, as I mentioned. Only the people who put the information that can see themselves and those they choose to include. We have a couple of daughters listed on the tree as well, and they're both alive. If there's no death date, then there's no public access. Privacy for the living. Even if it looks like, my gosh, the person's got to be dead by now. Well, it's as long as we don't have a death date, they have to be over a certain age, 100 something. I don't remember what it is because it was just recently changed. But remember, it's the world's tree. Also, remember that only God and genealogists can make a tree. So then the question is, should I put my tree online? Oh, that's a personal decision, and I'm let people make that one on their own. But I want you to remember that once it's up, even if you take it down immediately, it seems like, it may be after others have borrowed from it, especially if they have I'm following this person, and you put something up, man, they'll grab it. They will grab it. There are as many reasons to put a tree online as there are leaves on those trees. And some trees are deciduous. They just die off. Okay, I know the people do because that's the whole idea of genealogy. Okay, if you choose to, please keep in mind what we've looked at. It's not an all-inclusive list. There are a lot of online options for placing your tree, and it's up to the tree grower to make certain the data is included, accurate, and up to date. Check the online locations before choosing where to post your tree. If you plan to just put it on one place, then look at them all first and see what you're comfortable with. Make sure that people can identify you, get in contact. How do we know if we can trust an online tree? All right, we assess the sources that are provided. Check them for yourself, not just say, oh, look, there's a passenger list. Check to make sure that that is the right people or person and actually is a passenger list. Cite the sources you have viewed. Make certain there is some way to contact the tree owner. Understand that quoting someone else's tree is even more uncertain if you don't know who owns it. If you believe the credibility is there, how do you cite the tree? We use Elizabeth Shown Mill's book. It would be my first thought on that. But what you're looking for is a way to find it again. So the title of the tree, the author, contact information goes in your records. Shouldn't be made public. The date the tree was created, if it's available, where it's found, on what website. Don't put the link in, or you can put the link in, but with the date when you access the tree, because links change. Reason to use the tree. It's got the Smith family. Clarify if the tree is documented or undocumented. And in the comments section, identify why you believe the tree is credible, particularly if it's undocumented. You may have known the person and seen some of the records the person has. I don't know. Now, before you go down that road, what I'm going to suggest here is protect your ancestors. Use non-internet dependent genealogy software, like Family Tree Maker, Legacy, whatever. What if the website goes out of business? I know, sure, but what are the chances of that? Really? Unlikely that Family Search and Ancestry are going to be going out of business. But other companies have making your family tree unavailable. This can happen with personal websites of the web host if the web host goes belly up. If you go out of business, others still have access to your files. Ancestry's announcement. This is an announcement from a couple of years ago, but it's an example of what I'm just saying. World Connect Family Trees from RootsWeb. That was the one place that I put my tree besides Family Search. But on the 15th of April, 2023, it was migrated to Ancestry as a new free access collection. Now, I know this is over 2 years ago, but if that was your only tree, it's not there. It's now on Ancestry, and contact Ancestry for help or questions. It was very sad. My husband has a cousin that his only tree was on World Connect Family Tree, and it was extensive. What if the website is hijacked? We hear about that happening all the time. You know, they got hacked, and now all of your personal data is in the hands of we don't even know whom. If you had someone change information on Family Search to something you know isn't correct, and when you correct it back, they change it back to the incorrect information, that feels like being hijacked too. What if people are sharing without permission? You may not like that. Right? But what if you can't get online? You want to show someone your tree or work on it yourself, but you don't. I know it's very rare these days to be offline, but it does happen sometimes. It could just be lines down. It could be like the weather they've got in the east right now. Anything could happen. And you want to get access to your tree, you need to have that access without having to be on the internet. So, and if you were in a cemetery and you wanted to look something up, very few people that are in that cemetery are getting online, or they have a better direction to it. So having non-internet dependent software, you can list your living relatives on it and still maintain their privacy with a genealogy software program. Some software programs will correlate with online websites. So Family Search and MyHeritage, Roots Magic and MyHeritage, a lot of the websites will correlate, and you can upload GEDCOMs. Gives you the best of both worlds. Just remember that anytime you're changing something on your genealogy software, you need to update wherever else you've got that tree. So don't be afraid to venture into the forest. Is it safe? Beware of what's lurking in the shadows. Oh, there they all are, the whole family. But look who's behind the tree. It's AI, artificial intelligence, waiting to fix anything up there that it wants to. So just remember to take your axe to cut away the damaged branches and your blunderbuss to shoot AI out of the trees. And if you have questions, there's a chance I can answer them. No guarantees. Assuming there's somebody there.
I don't know.
Janice.
Who are you looking for?
I'm looking for Janice.
Janice.
Oh, there you are. There you are. Okay, I'm going to do
Hi
that.
there.
Hey.
We definitely had lots of things said in the chat, so now I have to go back and find the first one, which I think actually came from me anyway. Let's see. Okay. Ah, yes, the first comment actually was from me. One of the things you emphasized multiple times was, oh, PIF.
Oh, what?
Never mind. One of the things you emphasized multiple times was if you don't know who owns the tree or you cannot contact the tree owner, don't want to trust that tree. And I understand your logic, but genealogy is still mostly a pastime for older people. Older people die before younger people. So you're trying to find the owner of the tree. You find out the tree owner has died. How does that affect your assessment of the reliability of that tree? I mean, everything else looks great, but okay, the person's died. No, you cannot contact him anymore. How do you approach that?
Well, after prayer. Sorry, bad joke. Okay. Actually, one of the things I also mentioned was that if it's considered an undocumented tree, and I look at having the author or the tree owner or whatever being an indication of a form of documentation, if it's undocumented, in that respect, you use the tree, you've looked at it, you've assessed it, these things match, and then you put that in your notes, in your evidence discussion. The tree is, I guess you could say, dormant. No identification of the tree owner, but you can still put in the URL for the tree itself. Like I said, I'm very cautious about putting full URLs in there for something that can change in the blink of an eye. However, that's one of the ways of doing it. I had a situation similar to that, and I had a full confidence in the document that I was trying to cite, and I couldn't find it again. So I went into great detail what it said because I'd made a copy, and then explained this is why this makes sense, and actually it was for an NGS quarterly, and they accepted it. So I thought, okay, if NGS is okay with it.
There we go. Well, part of the nature of the internet is simply that things go away. But basically, listen, because you kept emphasizing that, like, everything else looks great, and there's a person's name there, and you try and, like you contact somebody, answers and say, oh, that was Dad's tree and he died. You have to account for that.
And if there's a situation where you can communicate with the person that's still alive, ask if this has been transferred to anybody else, because it might be somebody else might have picked it up and done the verification. And generally, if you find one tree online, there's another one of the same family. They just not always looking the same, though.
True. I did make
a lot of John Johnsons in one tree.
And I made a comment. Or Ole Olsons or Yen Jensens. I did make a comment because you said about download your tree from Family Search. I'm like, you don't have a tree on Family Search, but you did comment later about our branch. Okay, actually, that's a different question. Family Search, WikiTree, and Jenny. You do not have a tree. You may have entered information onto that large collaborative tree. Do those three sites make it reasonably not difficult for you to download information from your branch if you choose to?
That's probably one of the reasons that I don't have an active tree. That is to say that I don't have one I'm working on. But when I was talking to Daniel, he said, "You've got 3 trees here." I think, "What do you mean 3 trees?" I mean, well, 2 of them have my name, and that's it. And then the third one it has 1,875 people in it. Who are these people? And then I realized, oh, that's all on my husband's line. He did that. Now I can't do anything about his line because he's gone. But I mean, he's dead. He's not. I didn't kick him out because of that. That'd be weird.
Okay. Now, Amy asked, and you kind of glossed over this, but you didn't talk about it very much. Why would I want to create a tree and post it online? Now, you talked about if you want to, you can put it here, you can put it there, you can do privacy, whatever, but you didn't actually say, why would you want to put that tree online? What benefit would that be?
Well, I did, but it was in the analysis portion, which is collaborating or gives you a chance to read the stories that people have put up about your ancestors. So, and then you can do it too. You could put up a story that people might not be aware of. And I have done a little bit of that, not much, mostly because I figure that if I get started, then I'm obligated to just continue for the rest of, I don't know, my life probably.
That
So,
could be
but
dangerous.
yeah.
Well,
Yeah, but it's mostly so that you can communicate with the other tree owner or with the people that are going to be looking at your tree, and find out that maybe they have a lot of mistakes and you can help them, or maybe you have mistakes and they can help you. And one of the best things that I have discovered that friends of mine have come away with is they've gotten pictures that they had no idea existed of their immediate relative. So,
and along the lines of collaboration, another reason to put online a tree, or at least part of your tree, cousin bait. People who are researching the same people you are, and that way they can find you. Not only you can find other people, but they can find you and you can collaborate. Because otherwise you have to go out and look for all those cousins, and that could be time consuming. Let's see.
Do it my way. Don't have any cousins, and it works out great.
There we go. Okay, now
I have second cousins. I don't have any first. That's all.
That's because I've explained. Well, that was my father's cousin. Well, that makes it your cousin also. It does. Yes.
First one's through. Yep.
Devora has a question. When you were talking about information on profiles, Ancestry and MyHeritage have designations for deceased or living on each profile. Can't we reliably use those? Or do you have, or part of what, like if there's somebody online that shows, like when somebody had your brother who's living, how much should we trust that information that people have posted?
That's why you want to be able to connect with the tree owner. I mean, some people just kind of invent things because they don't know. They don't remember. Well, I don't remember someplace in Tennessee. I just put Nashville. Well, if it's Knoxville, that is going to throw folks off. So if I find one error, I don't mean the kind of thing like, well, he was born in 1922 and died in 1843. I don't mean that kind of thing. I mean, because it's very easy to make an oops and not catch it. But if you find something that is like that, the place, whoever it was that put up the passenger list, the people weren't on there. I found that, so that means I'm going to look at every one of the other sources that are attached that say, oh, here he is here and here he is there. I don't know who the here he is because I'm not finding it. So that's the other reason you want to cite the source in such a way that, page 3, line 4, that little bit of extra can sure save a lot of time.
Well, that's true. And also, from my own experience, even when if they were to cite it, that doesn't mean it's right. Once I remember looking at a family tree, and they had 3 instances of the 1910 census attached to the guy. And I have found people enumerated twice. I have never found anybody enumerated 3 times. So I looked at each one, and it was clear those were 3 different people. 2 were in one state, 1 was in the 3rd state. One of them actually was the right guy, but the other 2 were simply guys with the same name who were about the same age. So even if they cite a line and say, oh, this is the line he's on, double check and make sure they're actually citing the correct person.
Yeah, and that can help happen in a lot of places. That's most of the errors in my tree on my branch on Family Search are that kind of thing. Somebody died, someone was born, got a name, died, next kid that's born gets the same name, and I find that the first child who had died has all these children and grandchildren, thinking, I have a feeling that might be an error, but it's so easy to have that happen. If people would stop naming their kids after their other relatives, wouldn't that make life so much easier?
Well, yeah, but see, as Eastern European Ashkenazi Jews, we tend to skip a generation. But
yes,
how many Isaac Cohens can you find in New York City at the same time? Now, Jean Gold gave some advice when she's using information from an online tree, capture all the information that the person put and document it. Even if you don't end up using it in your own tree, is my addition, but capture everything the person wrote, because online is ephemeral. It might quite literally be gone tomorrow. She tends to print to PDF. You get an exact copy of everything there.
Yes. Yeah.
And then always download a copy of all the source documents, especially like an ancestry tree. If they included source documents, make sure you get them, because they might disattach themselves later. Let's see.
Or if the source document is no longer left up, a lot of a lot of places have decided, places meaning archives, repositories, a lot of them are saying, wait a minute, we don't want to have that batch of births for those 10 years. We don't want that available and to the public. Well, it was there for a moment. You caught it. And it might not be there again, not because you got the wrong URL, but because it's been taken down. I remember when a whole batch of stuff from Texas was removed from the microfilms because the Texas rules said, you can have it from.
Yeah, they changed it. Or was it on Family
Chicago
Search?
did that.
Family Search used to have the it had a birth index and it had the birth documents, and then Cook County said, oh, we're creating our own website. You no longer have permission to post the documents. Okay, so Family Search took down the birth records, left the birth index. Unfortunately, the Cook County birth index sucks. You can find it in Family Search and then use the exact same thing and look in Cook County and you can't find it. So much for them having it online. You still have to write to them in person. Let's see what else.
As long as if you copied it initially and given the have your source citation there, it probably could cut off 5 minutes of your time when you're sending for it. You never know.
That's true. And Jean gave some more advice about hints, and that's hints on Family Search, hints on Ancestry. I think Find My Past also does hints now. They use basic algorithms that do improve over time, but they're using for the basic information, the person's name, person's age, birthplace, and they're sending out their little AI bots scanning through all their databases. Who might match this person? They don't critically assess them. They're using the very basic facts about the person to see if somebody else matches. Check every single one of them, because not all of them are going to be right. Kind of like that one guy I found that the person said, 3 times in 1910, sure, they all must be right. Let's see. Oh, okay. When you were showing something on MyHeritage, and you said something about where it says born with the name Miller, and you said, nah, actually her name was Mueller when she was born. Does it say born because that's the phrasing MyHeritage uses? In other words, like say she was born Mueller, did her family change their name to Miller before she got married so that Miller also was functionally her maiden name?
In that case, yeah.
Because my guess is that's simply their phrasing. Kind of like Ancestry with the Social Security Death Index says, last residence. But that's not. That zip code is the last address to which benefits were mailed. It's Ancestry that says in their little index, this is the last residence. So that's what, don't necessarily blame the person for saying, it says born Miller. Each site has its own little idiosyncrasies about the information it displays. You need to take that into account when you're assessing it. So if it says born Miller, maybe that's just how MyHeritage displays that information.
I couldn't even answer that. I don't know, but now I'd like to check. Will I? I hope so. Well, Daniel extended my membership for like 5 years. He was so tired of hearing from me. So,
well, and speaking of Daniel does not run the whole shebang. It's nice to think he does. Daniel is their genealogy expert, and he's their main public contact person. Most of the stuff he does not do directly. If you send him something, he sends it to somebody else at MyHeritage and has them check the information.
Yeah, and
But
he has
he's the
done
one
that.
most of us get to meet in person when we go to conferences.
Exactly.
Now I'm sorry, Dector, I've forgotten what your first name is. I know what it is, I've forgotten.
Dahlia.
Thank you, Dahlia. I wasn't sure I was remembering right.
Yeah.
She put a note in here to add to your presentation when you write to somebody about a tree, whichever site you're writing to them on, make sure you include which tree you're writing about because some people, like Dahlia, are managing multiple trees. And that's just going to be better. I mean, anytime you're writing to somebody, make
Sure.
it clear to the person what you're writing to them about so that that person doesn't have to figure out what are you talking about? Or,
Yeah.
like on the DNA site, I'm writing about which person. It's that because if somebody's managing 50 profiles, help the
Sure.
person give you better information.
Excellent. Good point. Thank you. I will make that
Yeah.
little adjustment there. And that brought to mind that exact situation where you have people with the same names, and even I have Muellers on both sides.
Gee, you must be
So that
German.
I am 3/4 German and 1/4 Texan.
And which one of those do you think is more important there?
So
Well,
yeah, putting the tree name, I often get Max Greenberg, and is he in Jones' tree or Jean's tree or Bill's tree or Fred's tree?
Yeah, it's like Isaac Cohen. How many Max Greenbergs are there out there?
Well, but it's not just in your own tree looking for the one person
exactly.
that you can do. But
Yeah.
when you're editing or working on many people's trees, it makes it very difficult.
I
So-
would venture to say if you can do a screenshot of what it is you're talking about and attach it. And I don't know if the inner
No,
workings can do that. That would be
Ancestry cannot do screenshots on their message.
Oh, that's right. I found that out.
Wait,
Just
back up.
recently.
Ancestry can't do screenshots of what?
When you're messaging somebody, I want you to tell me, show me what it is you're talking about. And, you take a screenshot, but you can't put that in the email message.
Oh, you can't
So-
attach a simple
screenshot.
document like that?
Not in messages. So I do the same thing that Jean does. And I say, please write me back at my personal email. I put it in, and nobody ever does. Even if they're cousins, they don't send it to me personal email. They send it through Ancestry. Anyway.
No, I always do that with Ancestry messaging also, or contact me at my email address, because that way we're not dependent on the Ancestry system to keep track of things.
Right.
May I just say something here? In just thinking of the folks that are not answering you as you have requested. Every now and then I go back in to see what's happened with Ancestry, and I just found something that I had written to somebody. No, somebody had written to me in 2023, and it slid through, and I didn't see it until actually when I was putting this thing together, doing its revision. So I thought, oh my gosh, I can't believe I didn't answer this person. I mean, there were a whole bunch of other things that people wrote me, and I did answer, but that. So yes, sometimes we miss it. That's why I say use my personal email, because I'm more likely to catch it.
Mm-hmm.
During the course of this year, as opposed to the decade.
Okay, now Dahlia is asking for more clarification again about whose tree it is and being able to contact that person. Well, here, let me read. You said to make sure you can contact the person. Do you mean that there's a person's real name attached to the tree, or simply being able to message them? Because on Ancestry, you can message somebody who has a tree. Are you also talking about looking at the last time somebody worked on a tree?
Well, because most of my work I don't do much on the online tree except for family search, where I try to fix things. But I do most of my stuff on my software. So I don't. These are all good points. What you want, though, I think the main thing regarding contacting a tree owner or a contributor or whatever is you got to keep it short. Because if you write this whole big long thing, it people get lost in it and they don't want to read the whole thing. And maybe you're the 10th person that's asked this question or something. So keep it real short. In my subject line, it says regarding your Smith tree on Ancestry, and then I put a very, very short explanation of who I am and why I'm contacting them. And I generally try to entice with, and I've got some documents that relate to this person you might be interested in. Because I usually do. There's very few things I don't have at least something that is unique to my trees.
And then now she has another question about why bother making a citation to an online tree, that this is your source. If the tree has documents, do you actually cite the documents for the information, or do you cite the person's tree? If you're citing the person's tree, why are you citing it?
That's the only reason I'd be citing it, is because that person has information that is not represented in the documents. Okay. Otherwise, I use the documents. I have to see them, though. I can't say this person saw them, so I'm sure it's right. Right. No, I go back to that passenger list that did not have the person on it that was supposedly there. And if I had just not bothered to look at it, or if they said, you can find it here, but I don't go to look there, wherever that is, then I always, I don't.
You should always go back to the original source as much as possible.
Yeah, thank you. Quickly stated.
Okay, now Melissa has a different question. Not related to online trees per se, but can you provide your perspective on Family Tree Maker?
It's not because I don't like it or don't use it or don't anything. Well, I don't use it. I have no. I know people that love it. Absolutely, they will not even consider not using it or trying something else. But that I'm not one of those. My choice is Roots Magic because I started that way, and
okay, I'll pop in.
After a while, I don't want to learn something new.
But Melissa, it's like with most software, you end up being most comfortable with most of the time with the program you first used. All of the family tree programs do basically the same information, but they present it in slightly different ways, and you have to enter information in slightly different ways. So it's more a matter of, is that the one you got used to the interface? I use Family Tree Maker because I started with version 2.0 under DOS before Windows even existed. But it's the one I'm most used to.
Yeah.
It's a perfectly fine program, but so is Roots Magic, so is Legacies. If you have to start with something right now from scratch, I'd actually recommend downloading Legacy because you get the complete program and it's totally free. And was that a cousin? A cousin. Ask your cousin to send you the information as an exported GEDCOM. You can import the GEDCOM to Legacy, and you'll still be able to share information.
Family Tree Maker was released on Mother's Day to almost everyone. She said it hasn't been released yet.
Okay. So the new version has been released.
It has been released, and that's it. But the other thing is, if you do a GEDCOM, your media doesn't come over.
That's true.
Right.
On the other hand, even if you do it from Family Tree to Family Tree Maker, sometimes you still don't transmit documents 100% accurately simply because of the way documents get transmitted in that type of transaction. I would suggest finding somebody with Family Tree Maker, seeing if you like the interface before you buy it. If you can't test it, download Legacy. It's free. Test that and see how you like it. But they all do the same things. I have 6 or 7 programs installed.
Roots Magic has a essentials program, and you can play with it. When I'm talking to people and they don't, I talk to an awful lot of people that don't have genealogy software, and they look at me and says, "Do I need something other than Ancestry Tree?"
Yes.
And I'm thinking, yeah, you really do, because you want to have control over what's being up there, what's out there, and I'm not saying that people can go and steal things off of your ancestry tree,
Well, they
but I'm
can,
not
but
saying they can't.
whether you
Of course
should be
they can.
concerned
Yeah,
is a separate question,
right.
depending on what you're
Yeah,
uploading.
I also know then, because of the way I put things together, if someone has used some of my stuff, I can tell right away because I know how I formatted it.
I
But
also have heard that some people put in false information, kind of like map makers used to put in a non-existent place so they could
oh
tell if
yeah,
somebody had stolen their information. That's different.
yeah.
The way you present a map graphically and everything, that's actually something copyrightable. Most of what we end up putting in family tree programs are data, and that's not copyrightable. Facts can't be copyrighted. So when
Right.
people get upset, you stole the information about my grandmother. What did you steal? The birth date, the marriage date, the death date. That's a fact. How does that matter? But people get very protective of their family information. Now, Stephanie says, does the uploading of genealogy trees often not include the sources? Unfortunately, yes. The vast majority of people who put trees online do not include sources. The most common source you will see cited in ancestry trees is other trees on Ancestry, because most people don't bother to document their work. They put up a tree with the information their mother told them, and they're happy with that, and that's where it stays.
Well, it's also that most people don't care if you haven't documented it. They're taking your word for it, especially if you say, this was my grandmother and she did such and such. Then uh, you obviously know what your grandmother did. But I can tell you, there are a lot of family stories that my brother got, but I didn't. And he's 6 years older than I am. He was at an age of understanding certain things that I was not in an age of understanding, or I would maybe squeal on my dad and tell his mother, "Hey, guess what Dad did?" That wasn't a good thing. So, yeah, a lot of things don't get up there. Right?
Okay, I will get back to question in a second. I'm sending a message to somebody. Deborah, I don't know why you're getting gibberish when you download the handout. No, but I don't think anybody else has said they've had a problem. And we can resend it to you directly by email. But if anybody else has had a problem, I'd like to hear about
PDF,
it,
isn't it?
because I just checked it in my browser. It's showing up as a perfectly legible PDF. So if there's a problem, I definitely want to know. Let's see. Oh, okay. Hold on. Da, 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 da. Let me see. That's the okay,
On Earth
Michael's. I did that.
or download?
Okay. Michael, as far as is Michael still here? Is she here? Nope. I will write to her later. She was talking about how somebody took a photo of her mother and put it in their tree, even though her mother is not in their tree. They've attached it to somebody else. You don't know why people do weird things like that. I have no idea. Let's
Well,
see.
sometimes something that is just done as a personal cutesy on a card or something like that, all of a sudden they end up in the in a picture and an image file on something. I mean, it's
Okay. Actually, Dahlia, I'm going to go to Jean first because she put
I
in
was
the
going to
chat that she
respond to
couldn't
the
raise her
picture.
hand, and then I'll come to you, Dahlia, after Jean. So,
Okay,
Jean, what else did you want to say?
Okay, so I had a couple of suggestions. The discussion came up that you couldn't upload images when you're on Ancestry in the messaging system. My workaround, at least for me, and someone else may have something else to do, is to create an image, dump it on a cloud, and send a link to that cloud picture. Because you can put as many links to any sources you want in the Ancestry messages. And some clouds are free. And depending on where you have your services, they may already have given you a cloud account where you can dump files and create links to them. Okay, the next thing I do when I'm contacting someone about their tree is I do something like Jean said, I open it in a separate tab where it says contact. I do the right click, open a separate tab. So I have the person that interests me in one tab and the message to the other person in the other tab. And I grab the URL of the person I'm interested in. So in addition to saying which tree, which person, I include the link to the person, him or herself. That allows the recipient to click on that and see who I was looking at when I sent my message. And as far as Family Tree Maker goes, the errors that they've been experiencing appear to have been fixed. I've been testing it quite thoroughly the last few days. Actually, it's more than that. And I'm not finding the doubling that was happening with the facts and the breaking of the sources, which for me has been almost 2 years trying to repair it for the third time. So I think they fixed it all, but you'll have to convert all of your files and go through them one by one, fixing the errors manually. The update doesn't fix anything. If you did a sync,
Lovely.
if you did a sync with Family Tree Maker and you don't have a backup, you will have the same errors on both ends and you'll have to manually fix them.
And that kind of thing is something common when any software program of any type doesn't update, that there are glitches. It's something you unfortunately have to get used to.
Yeah.
But
I think
what Jean said is so important. Make a backup before you do anything.
That's true. Always make them. And that's just a good thing for software. Thank you, Jean.
Yeah.
Now, Dahlia,
Yeah,
you had your hand raised.
I was just going to say regarding pictures, I was at a Zoom meeting where they posted someone and she posted this lovely bubble picture. This is supposed to be my great grandmother, but I never met her. My mom's dead now. So if any of you would like to buy this picture and then put it in for your memories, please do it. And I'm charging X amount, which is a genealogy, whatever. But so when he was asking, why do some people do it? It's like, oh, well, that might be this happens to be his mother, but here is a picture from the 1800s, or before photography. Anyway, and someone adds it to the tree because it's an interesting picture and it looks like it might be your great great grandparents. Anyway, it was just a fun comment.
Well, thank you. Okay. Does anybody else have any other comments or questions, or do we let Jean go back to the rest of her Sunday? Not that she's going to have anywhere near as much fun as we're having now. We know that.
By the way, I've been on Family Tree Maker since 2.0 as well.
Oh my God. And I kept using that, and through having a 486 computer, I went to a 286, 386, 486. The only reason I ended up finally upgrading to a Windows computer was because I had the new version of Family Tree Maker and I wanted to run it, and it ran under Windows. That's the only reason I upgraded from the 486. But yes, some of us are dedicated Family Tree Maker fans, but seriously, it's usually the one you start with.
Okay, then the last one is only because I was helping Sonny with his download. Sometimes the sending computer doesn't create a usable file name. In this case, one that ends with .pdf. So when you go to download something like the help here, check the file name before you hit enter. Or if you didn't, when you go find it, check that it has the .pdf at the end or whatever part it needs. If you add that, it will usually become readable. And I'm all done with my suggestions.
Well, thank you, though. Other than that, it seems like we've run out of other comments and questions because nobody's raising a hand or anything. So thank you very much, Jean. I'm now going to turn off the recording. Let's see.